Here we go, guys. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. It is Brian here. Today we got a fun video for you guys. And this was by request, so I want to go right into it, okay? Now, I'm 41. I want to give you guys 9 life lessons I wish I could tell my 20-year-old self, okay? So 21 years prior, if I could go back in a time machine and impart these things onto the younger version of myself, this is what I would say. Now, it's obviously always hard to narrow it down because when it comes to each person specifically, there's things like, oh, that one thing that really was an event or something that transpired and came to pass. You know, that's getting really into the specifics, obviously. What I'm going to do is give more generalized things that I think are going to be applicable to just about anybody, especially for you young folks coming up, but also are just great lessons we can implement at any point in time as well, okay? But without further ado, here we go. All right, so lesson number 1, okay? Fitness isn't optional. It's 100% foundational. And what I mean by that is that we can't have the mind and the spirit find its completion without that body, without that physical sense of, connection, right? Because there are aspects, and I've talked about this, where denying the flesh, denying the body, going more into the spiritual dimension is great, but I look at the body as the coordinates. It is your points in time and space. So really, that's why to me it's very, very key. It is your single most individualized experience and perception that you really have compared to everything else and everyone else. So don't ignore your body. It doesn't mean you have to become an athlete, but it does mean that your body is essentially the vehicle that carries everything else in your life. And a lot of what we focus on, a lot of what I focus on in terms of training over here is teaching people how to make their body more capable for the things that they really need to do. Okay, one of the mindset reframes is just not seeing movement as punishment. Okay, we have this ingrained thing often in the back of our minds that moving our body too much is a form of punishment. It's really the opposite. Okay, it's a form of preparation, and it's preventative, it's activation, it's all of the above. Okay, it's presence. So just remember, our body is so crucial. We're going to go way deeper into that on the channel specifically, because obviously we talk about energy, vitality, we talk about confidence, resilience, focus, emotional stability, longevity. Okay, all this comes back to these consistent habits, right? Just understanding the things that you do consistently, right? And that is going to be leading us into number 2. But the things that you do consistently to take care of your body are the effects that you're going to see. It's not about what you did once when you were young or what you did when you played this sport. It's about what you continue to do. And that's why I talk about building a plan and building a way where you can actually maintain day in and day out, week in and week out, year in and year out as the single most powerful thing you can start doing today. And we can help you guys with that. So go ahead and click the link and reach out. I'll be talking through a few tools that you can use, but you can reach out through the free community directly and just hit free community, apply to join, and we'll get you started. Okay, so consistency beats intensity. Okay, number 2, consistency is really the thing that's going to get you there. So like I said, acquiring the knowledge of what to do is a big component, but the consistency is what's going to allow you to continue to move through that progress day in and day out, week in and week out. Okay, almost everyone overestimates what they can accomplish in a week, but almost everyone underestimates what they can accomplish in 5 years. So that consistent growth is really also key, right? Consistency, but we talk about this from the context of the growth mindset, which I think is very, very important, because if your consistency is all around a fixed mindset, you're actually not being consistent. You're starting to get to this point where you're being stubborn, and it can be seen as the same thing, but consistency is more about growth and more about where it's actually directing you, the intention behind it as well. Okay, so again, this comes with like the territory of understanding and motivation. That can be a spark, that can be something that comes and goes, but that discipline, that ability to build a system where this is going to get you through that because it's tried and tested, and it's not so much involved on the surface level emotions, which like waves, they rise and fall, right? But underneath, we know that there has to be that depth and that consistency, because that is the most important thing. That is the foundation that allows us to weather the storms, to get through from one year to the next, so to speak, as I've been talking about, and to maintain that direction. So the concept really I want you to take away is that those small actions are everything, okay? That small repetition, especially early in life, it seems boring. And in your 20s is not necessarily the most ideal time to force it. It's more about learning and trying to let it evolve naturally, because you're going to want to have experiences in your 20s that help you to grow later in life. But I think further and further we're seeing that the inability to actually use this wisdom early on and actually apply this growth framework is just affecting overall everything and everyone in a certain negative light. I'm going to talk about some of this too in relation to another video that, like I've mentioned, I have a few interesting new videos coming out. And anyway, this is going to relate to kind of where we are in terms of society. But without getting too caught up on that, it just comes back to the fact that we can find power in that ability to remain consistent rather than allowing ourselves to become overly scattered. Okay? So number 3, if your body doesn't move well, your mind usually won't either. Okay? Movement changes your state 100%. So the first thing I teach is from the perspective of movement, because we are usually trying to change our state to go from one identity to the next identity. It is the changing of the state, okay? When water goes from water to a gas, it is a changing of the state. The water itself is still essentially, there. All the molecules are essentially there, but now it's in a different form, right? And similar, right? The change from ice to water, or reverse from water into ice, okay? So that's a really great analogy. It's something that we can easily use to reset our mind when we are getting stuck, and reminding ourselves how important it is to change that state. And one of the ways we can hack that, so to speak, is movement. It's like so programmed in us that it's the original hacks. It's the original biohack. Like, you get up and you move by walking around throughout your day, and that actually helps you circulate your blood. It helps you move that lymphatic fluid, feel better, uplift your mood. It's connected to our day-to-day. Movement is so connected to who we are, even breathing, right? Strength training, mobility, getting outside. These are more than habits. They're mental performance tools, so see them as such. And remember, the mind and body aren't separate. They are one conversation, okay? So if your body is too stagnant, your thoughts will also reflect that state of stagnation. You need to move your body a little bit. Your mind will start to move, okay? But when we try to force the mind, we're getting stuck in the mind, right? We are not just our mind. We tend to think everything is controlled by the brain, and this is one of the problems with Western science itself. This is one of the reasons I wrote the book, The Art and Science of Mindset, to help people understand how this is all tied together. And also, relays into the book, The Flow Formula, which is the more recent one. Check it out on Amazon, and you can get the physical copy. You can download it, my website as well, and a lot of amazing stuff in there. I'll be talking more about that. Moving on though. Number 4, action solves problems faster than rumination. Okay? Again, this ties back into movement. So you can see this progression, this pattern. Really, this is what the same thing is what I'm constantly kind of teaching, because it's all coming from the same place. It's all intertwined into the same cycles and the same symbolism and the same patterns. So we're just taking it and breaking it down and making it easier for you to make sense of, okay? So action, right? Thinking has value. It does. We need to use our thoughts, but overthinking is where most people get stuck. Overthinking has a cost. The perfect plan rarely appears before you begin. In fact, I would argue it never does. And that is the cost of admission, is pushing yourself beyond that barrier into a new identity. Because when I talk about using imagination, when I talk about the theta childlike state, that is really our most basic nature. That's how we come into the world, to be able to, imagine one day when you're a little child what it's going to be like as you grow up. You become a teenager, you become an adult. what the experiences will be if you go to this different place, if you travel and you have this new experience. And that's life in a nutshell. So it's all about growing and, remembering the balance between action and thinking, again, is that art and that science, okay? So coming back to the same symbols, the same themes, right? When you're stuck, just take one step, take another, right? When I talk about wanting to learn new things, learn new skills or whatever, and I talk about this 5 or 10 minute rule where you just allow yourself the curiosity to try it. And often by doing that for just a couple minutes, your brain suddenly lets go of this strict belief system around that particular thing and says, oh, actually that wasn't so bad. Now, maybe I psyched myself out a little bit. Oh, and then before you know, oh, actually this is fun. Oh, actually I see the benefit in these things. Oh, wow, I can't believe it took me this long to go ahead and allow myself the permission, right? The lenience to actually just explore this even in my mind first. So it's the connection between, again, the exploration and the curiosity up here, but then allowing yourself to move into that actual action step. And often that just starts by taking that one step. Momentum creates clarity. So most confidence is built after taking action, not before. It's really the act of stepping up and taking that action itself that is so powerful, right? And, that can be said across the board for many things. And it's also how you learn, okay? Because action and reaction is a learning process. And of course we learn from mistakes. So the concept here is that if things don't work out perfect, you're still getting important feedback. And the person who's unwilling to get that feedback just won't have that, they won't have that same trajectory as somebody that's willing to take that feedback, because now it's getting easier and easier for them to take action. And they're obviously less scared about the feedback. We're going to get into that as well here a little bit more in a second. But to tie it all together, the next number 5 here, okay, is very, very important, because number 5 is that nobody's thinking about you as much as you think about you, or you think they're thinking about you is another way. So in other words, when you're especially, and there's 2 sides to this, okay, because there is an importance to understanding the data set that is other people's interpretation of you. In fact, one might say that if you can see from that side, you've solved what takes most people 60, 70, 80, their whole life to solve, is that, oh, well, I see myself one way, but the world really sees me more like this, right? It's kind of like getting over ourselves, learning to laugh at ourselves, learning to have thicker skin. Something everyone can benefit from out there in the world is just learning this sense of like, we are all in the same experience of you came here, you arrived here, you got into this body without even knowing really too much how it happened. So you can't blame yourself, and you can't even blame your parents, right? You can't even blame God if you want to, because at the end of the day, it's hard when you realize that to actually compare anything to anything. Everything has such a unique value to it. And that's part of what we're going to get at too here, is again, just remembering how unique your value is, how unique your story is. And essentially, like, it's allowing you to also take that action that we just talked about, okay? Many people are so caught up in that very same equation where they're thinking about what everyone else is thinking, they're worrying about their own life, they're playing over their own awkward moments in their head. They're thinking about upsetting things or things that make them feel excited or nervous, or, all that's going on in other people's heads as well. And that's why most people are actually not very, as, situationally aware, for one, which is something I also talk about, or just conscious. They're not just aware as much, they're not thinking about you as much as in your mind you're going to often make it out. So in your mind you can build up these ghosts, so to speak, right? You have to learn how to read your own self and read your own mind and read your own thoughts and conquer those thoughts that are clamping down on you, right? Something that people they're not thinking about, they've moved on about, but in your mind you're waiting for permission because when you're young, someone said this about you, so you don't want to go out and exercise because you're worried people will look at you. There's just so many different ways you could look at it. And so, for instance, like when I first started doing rope flow, I felt like I looked kind of silly. I didn't really care that much, though. But I found that, I was getting better pretty quickly just because I was unafraid to go and just work on it wherever, even if it was in the park, in public. And then B, I also realized that sooner or later people were actually asking me all about it, and were like, this is really cool. And so that's one of the reasons I even started making this YouTube channel. It was kind of very well in conjunction with that as well. Me learning a new skill was a big part of especially the YouTube portion of this channel, of Alpha Vitality, of helping people want to activate and jumpstart that energy in their life, and just feeling more capable, feeling stronger, feeling healthier, feeling happier. All that's related into that vital life force energy. We're bringing more life force out there to help others, because that's where the work happens. It's not just in our brain and in our thoughts, but in our demeanor, in our, in our demeanor, and in the essentially the passion that we can generate from within our heart. It's like a tangible feeling that people are either feeling a presence of or a lack thereof. And that's going to determine a lot. It's also similar to how you can build connections with people through commonality, through allowing yourself some sense of opening up, of being vulnerable, of sharing common experiences that you may have gone through. And this is very important to how we build connections and how we build bonds. But also when it comes down to sales, when it comes down to being able to persuade people and to get people onto your program, into your sphere of actually immersing themselves, because that's also the number one thing that holds so many people back, is they don't want to go fully in. They dip their toe into something and they don't want to commit to it. So again, nobody's thinking about you as much as you think. Realizing that can help you jump in, start the business, create, speak, stop waiting for permission, ask those questions, live your life. And this ties directly into that, number 6, okay? No one has it figured all out. That's one of the most important things as well, is that most people do not know as much as they portray to know, or even think themselves to know, because of one simple thing, is most people do not know what they don't know, or the percentage of what they don't know. But the reality is there's a ton that we don't know. And in this time, this exponential growth in intelligence and technology will help people realize, wow, there is so much that we are still learning about reality, about life, about consciousness, about the human experience, and about what it can be and what it can mean. So the flip side of that, I think, is a very, very infinite upside. I think the glass ceiling is the illusion, and really it is the staircase to heaven. It is the infinite truth, okay? We'll get deeper into that more on the channel. Guys, make sure you hit the subscribe. If you're liking this so far, definitely hit that subscribe. Follow along for more content, okay? So remember, no one has it figured all out. Growth replaces perfection. Experience replaces certainty, because experience will also help you build that certainty. Failure will help you build that certainty. And everybody is essentially doing that same thing. We're all learning as we go. It's just some people are better at learning. Some people are better at taking it in stride. Some people are better at putting their ego aside when need be. The people who succeed aren't always the ones with every answer. In fact, it's often that thinking trap we just talked about. You'll think yourself into paralysis. That analysis paralysis will prevent you from taking the necessary action. And it's all about the action, just doing something a little different. It's not about trying hard. It's just about doing. There is no try, there is only do, okay? This is another concept with how our brain will trick us. So, remember that, okay? Be willing to ask better questions. I talk about being inquisitive. Never stop asking questions. Okay, number 7, rejection is often redirection. So this ties into what we mentioned earlier. Often opportunities disappear because they're making room for better ones. So no matter what happens in our life, no matter what essentially goes wrong, always learn something from that, and we always should. We should always take everything with a grain of salt. We should always look for the silver lining, and we should always see rejection as redirection, okay? What that means is you don't allow yourself to internalize it, personalize it, and beat yourself up. You actually remind yourself that every no can teach you something, every setback contains information. This is how you sharpen your sword. This is how you sharpen your own edge of being able to make better and better decisions, be more and more decisive be more and more direct. So particularly as a man, I find that this one is very, very important, because as men, being decisive is a superpower because of what we're talking about here in earlier. It allows you that feedback. It allows you to take action. It allows you to get out of that analysis paralysis. And of course, this is absolutely important for women as well, because same thing, we can get stuck in our emotions. As human beings, our emotions can overwhelm us. But when we move ourselves around, we actually move that energy more, because an emotion is already this energy that's started moving in your body, and it makes you feel, your physiology feels something a certain way. And that feeling is what stops you. But when you get up and you move the body more, it kind of helps dissipate and break that up. And I've always talked about that as very, very powerful concept to help us, okay? Not just witnessing the emotion itself and being like, well, that emotion is not me, but I still don't want it in me, so I have to actually break it up, start moving that energy out of the way so I can get back to that foundational feeling, right? And the more and more you do it, your nervous system obviously gets used to it, right? And obviously now everybody's talking about the nervous system, and that's really been this foundational component here since day one of the two sides, the art and the science, and all tied together, the mystical and the hyper real, okay? It's all tied together through that consciousness, through that nervous system, mind, body, spirit connection. And that's very, very important. It's coming more and more online, so that's why more and more people are talking about it. And it's a good thing. So I'm glad to see that is coming out, but I actually researched that, and there's been, quite a spike in the past 4 or 5 years of this particular discourse, some of these particular words and phrases. So again, we are seeing that shift, okay? Number 8, social media is not real, okay? What do I mean by that? I was lucky to grow up in a time just before social media. And what you notice is that people didn't have this same extreme desire to be like the main character, this same extreme desire to like push everything about their life on everyone else, even though, like we're going to get at right here, it's mostly fake, right? It's all about the image. Life today is all about the image. And I've talked about this too. And that can be, used for better or for worse. But in general, I talk about being integral with that, being in alignment. And, we all want to present the best version of ourselves regardless. So no one's as authentic maybe as they want to believe they are. But either way, you should, especially as a man, you should always be presenting your best foot forward. You should never allow your own emotions or the world to just be like, oh, I'm just going to give up, right? Or I don't have any other side to me. I don't have that extra spark, that extra edge, that extra fire. Wherever you are, okay? Wherever you're at in life, you can choose to amplify the best things about who you are and where you're at in your skill sets. And we'll go, again, deeper into this. We'll break all this stuff down more and more and more and more, okay? But this reminds me of some of those YouTube videos that were pretty big for a while. I haven't seen as many, where folks would go around, they'd find a homeless person, they'd clean them up, they'd give them the haircut, and it was literally like you could barely even recognize this person after they went through this full transformation. And it's just a reminder that in just a small moment, so much can shift, so much can change. Now again, this doesn't necessarily mean the identity will immediately catch up, but of course, if that person's truly been struggling, or especially for those that ended up in situations more against their will, or not just necessarily chose to crash out and go down that dark path, but for those types of people, it can feel like something like that, I can only imagine it can feel like a massive boost, a massive chance to now reset and restart, okay? And on the flip side, we've seen studies actually where you can give even someone who's homeless a lot of money, but if they don't have the training, if they don't have the understanding how to get out of that identity, very, very soon the money will be gone, and they'll be back in the same situation, okay? This is what we're dealing with right now, and it's not so black and white. Like I always say, we do need to be more conscious. That's what this time is about. Instead of saying everything is just across the board, one size fits all. It's all black and white. It's all like the checkerboard, which is what they want. They want that because it keeps people fighting. It's very simple. It keeps people fighting, okay? Just remember, social media comparison, that quietly steals gratitude. Comparison is the thief of joy. Remember, compare yourself with your prior self, and more than anything, find reasons to be grateful. Find things that you can be grateful for that other people struggle to find, whether it's they struggle to even be grateful, because someone could have a ton of things, but they're not even grateful for them. They're not even thankful that they have them. So it's almost like it's a weird prison of material prison, which is actually where most of this realm is, right? If we're being honest, this whole concept of money is actually right now imprisoning most of these people, okay? And we'll go deeper into why that is. But it comes down to this theta state, this childlike sense, and this wonder that is so imperative to our overall wellness, our overall state, that mind, body, spirit connection, okay? And that's why we're coming online, is to really help mix this up and really help get this stuff out there, and to help you first and foremost, because you are important. You watching this video, you tuning in today, so crucial. You don't even realize how important your presence and your participation in this is. So thank you. We thank you. If you haven't hit the subscribe yet, please do. If you enjoy the video, we got more stuff coming. Okay, so to wrap up number 8, then we got our last one. That social media lifestyle is never the truth. So measure yourself against who you were yesterday. Okay, it's always someone's carefully edited, carefully curated version of themselves. Okay, and that's what we will look back on this time, and we will realize how much that stole from our humanity. So the only race worth running is your own. That's where it all comes to light. That's where your heart frees up. That's where you start to actually be able to love without needing to constantly receive something. Oh, I need something to give. It's like, y'all need Jesus. Like, let's be real, okay? Y'all need Jesus. Like, and again, like where I come from, we say Rastafari, we say one love. But, the truth of the matter is people need love, but they need that love to come from within, in the sense of like, you just need to give a little bit more to get more, right? And I know it's hard because we always just want to get, we want to feel deserving. And I know life is not fair in that sense, but I think that's what the whole point is. When you like give so freely, you don't even have time to stop and think so much about if your life is not exactly where you want it to be. But again, it gets back to this action. By being in that state, you're actually, soon enough, your life will match that. And this is something that's taken me a long time to balance, because I think for much of my life, I really was stuck a lot in my thoughts. Even though I've done a lot of amazing things, I've had a lot of experiences, I've taken a lot of action. Oftentimes there's still aspects that were, I'm overthinking, or I'm holding myself back from releasing that true identity, that true, my own perspective as well, that true experience that I want others to be able to tap into, to be able to have some authentic relation to, because it is real and it's based upon what I actually went through. And okay, number 9, last one we're going to go over, right? Life becomes far more meaningful when you discover the overlap between these 3 things, okay? So, and if you're just struggling with direction, I want you to use this today as a way to help you in terms of like something tangible that you can do. So right now at the very end, I want you to write down 3 things, okay? I want you to write down a list of what you genuinely enjoy doing. I want you to write a list of what you're naturally good at, and I want you to write a list of things that create value for other people, that are actually solving problems and creating solutions in the world, and that people really need, okay? So, for example, for me, I'll just give you a quick example, okay? I genuinely enjoy fitness, wellness, but particularly from the aspect of learning how to move my body better and learning the corrective exercise angle that can help people get out of pain. So that's something I enjoy. Obviously, doing that to help someone get out of pain, learn how to move their body better, and cultivate more vital energy, that is something that is definitely valuable. People really need that, especially right now. And the nice thing is I've gotten to the point where I'm very good at it. It took me a long time, but now through all that trial and error, I can actually impart the information so that you can download it very, very quickly. You don't have to go through the same thing, and I can very easily help you remove the bottlenecks that are holding you back. It's very easy for me to do that, having gone through everything I've gone through, and not just working with people, but my life experience specifically itself, okay? Being a high-level athlete at an early age, working with some of the greatest coaches, some of the greatest trainers, having just so much insight from having traveled all around the country, gotten a chance to actually travel out of the country, out of the US when I was younger, which is, brings a lot of perspective as well. Just so many things that I want to continue to add forth into the conversation. Obviously, in my book, The Art and Science of Mindset, that's where I talk a lot about the chronic pain and what that taught me. So that's a huge component, is that if you've dealt with chronic pain, if you're someone, that's gone through a period of your life where pain has overtaken your mind, and you can relate to that, then there's more of that in that book, also on Amazon. But I'm going to be talking more about that because that is one of the biggest drivers. So the excruciating pain of dealing with lower back issues, dealing with tearing my hamstring, having sciatic pain down my left leg, not being able to sit or stand comfortably, constantly feeling like in this state of flux where my mind literally just felt like it could not relax. It was so overwhelming. Basically, my mind and my body would get so tired, I would crash, toss and turn, trying to sleep, trying to be comfortable, wake up, and just do it all over again for months. And in that process, it pushed me to a certain limit, but that also pushed me to discover so many powerful things about who we are, about the human spirit, the human body, our capability to heal, to deal with pain, what pain is, how to face life, how to face things head on. So, find your intersection. That's what number 9 is, okay? I want you to find that place where you feel like you're going to fit well, because a lot of times we struggle because we just haven't asked ourselves quite simply, like, do all these things really overlap in a way that, I'm actually taking advantage of? And I guarantee you, if you haven't looked at those things yet and you do, and then you start to act upon that, you'll see immediate shift, immediate progress, because now you're in your sweet spot, but a lot of times it's just something that you've talked yourself out of. Like, I know how much experience you have with something, whether you're a car mechanic and you've worked on cars for years, but you don't think, that's a valuable skill that I can either apply to my own business or I can use in even a cross-correlating way. Whether you have skill sets in terms of experience that you've had in your life, whether you have skill sets because you've gotten to travel and you speak multiple languages, whether you've had the skill set of, heck, even being really, really great at video games, you could make a living off that in the modern day. When I was growing up, video games were just coming into the world, and it's like, to think that years later, and I'm sure there was probably events like that back then, but I just remember when I first started hearing how people and friends of mine were, almost a career or making a living out of things like that, or even right? It's like the development of tech. It changed so much of what was possible, and we could look at this as a bad thing, but I'm trying to look also at a lot of the good things, right? And I will go over in one of my next presentations how this all ties together with this big picture that I talk about, which is essentially how we've moved away from this very natural, organic way of life. And it's kind of what we're seeing now in terms of the financial system, the economy, the tech bubble, and the development of AI, and how it's balancing, right? How we're dealing with everything right now as it sits. But again, the key here is to get you on board of thinking this way. And the idea is to help you build this momentum. The idea is to help you get out of whatever stuck state you might feel in, or whatever ambivalent state, get you more organized, get you on that path, because that's where everything's just going to come when you take that action. And that's why, we're really bringing it back to this concept of vitality. And sometimes sitting and just breathing is the most important action for you to take. So stillness, absolutely an important piece, right? Be still and know. That's an important component of how God and how this energy and how this consciousness, this intelligence beyond just our physicality speaks to us, okay? So again, I'm always trying to just give you some esoterics but not go fully into it, because I want to stick on the physicality and the actionable pieces of advice And so the last one is find that intersection. Guys, if you have an idea or you've written these down, but you still don't know the direction or what to do, that's something we can help you with. I'll put right now on the screen the plug and play. But you can go right onto the website and download your free, basically a prompt package. And it's just a simple copy paste prompt that you can use. There's actually a couple slight variations. So again, it gives you that variety. It allows you to customize to, what essentially is unique to you. But what you're doing is you're taking this overlap, this intersection, and you're starting to just immediately build a custom blueprint for yourself using the power of these new technologies. So I have the download there for you, or just go into the free community. That's what I would definitely suggest as well. Regardless, sign up in the free community right on the website, join free, and you're just going to apply. And once you jump in there, you can not only download all the prompts and all the instructions, but you can actually from there directly access the custom app that I built, which walks you through it as well. So I'll pop that on the screen as well. Okay. And if you have any trouble with any of that, let me know. Just please reach out to me, be communicative, because we are, building a lot of stuff here. But this is all for you guys. These tools, especially these free tools, are really for you guys because we need more of this activation out there. So there's so many layers. You could give somebody every possible tool, but they still won't do it. And that's the secret, right? So the highest layer is me teaching you how to actually do it. I can give you all the tools in the world. You can lead the horse to water, as they say, but the horse might not want to take the drink, right? It's life in a nutshell. I can give you guys so many tools. You can go download this for free and you can basically change your life in moments, or you could sit there and just let the next day go by, the next day go by, the next day go by. But what happens is, as you get more and more comfortable with your own habits, it does become harder. So you do need a coach. You do need someone else to just say, this is the track we should be on, and help check in on you, help keep you accountable. I find that's been something that's helped me a ton. And also just being open to accept feedback and not look at everything as criticism or as an attack. But realize that once we get to a certain point, when we go through the world, that's what we're doing. We're constantly trying to build this connection with other people through the heart space, right? Not just this mental prison and this constant friction, but actually we're trying to intertwine our electromagnetic fields and build through the heart space and be open to receive, feedback from others, and then also be open enough within ourselves to give feedback, right? To not have to feel like we have to constantly please everybody or just cater to society or to the world or to people based upon their emotions. Like, this is what we talked about. Our emotions are not the core identity of who we are as a human being. And if anything, learning to cut through those emotions sooner than later is going to be the thing that helps humanity jump up to that higher level. Not that emotions are not important. I've often said we need to channel this energy, this vitality, this sense of emotion into the music, into the art, into the collective, into the fitness, into the society, into the cuisine, into the experience, right? That's what humans are best at experiencing life, coming together, sitting around the table, large table, and sharing conversation and food, or coming together, around the stage and supporting someone sharing their vulnerability through their music or through their art. And we've always had the arts, we've always had this aspect, it's so intertwined, but we're so disconnected from the whole that all we can see is these separate components, okay? So again, this is also something I've talked about for a while, is how important we need music to help bring the culture forth and experience the beauty of the variety of this place, of this world, but also help people to understand deeper into the culture, deeper into the music itself, deeper into where this specific thing comes from, this specific time period represented. And music is a great vehicle, expression, talk about laughter, talk about joy, singing, even allowing yourself to have that release, right? It's like, if whatever way it comes out, if you're a man and you feel like, for me, for periods of time when I felt like I couldn't even access any emotion, I couldn't even shed a tear, right? I felt so locked up in myself when I was in this deep depression. And one of the things that was so profound was when I actually looked at that and I realized, like, you know, when you lock yourself up like that, it's similar to what we talked about earlier, how that stagnation breeds this shutting down, this stagnation within your thoughts. And so I started to realize that, and that's really what pushed me towards developing this for you guys, is my own life experience, my own my own troubles, my own trials and tribulations through life that led me down these challenging paths of questioning so much, and dealing with so much pain, whether it was physical pain, like I talked about my injuries, that translating into mental and spiritual forms of pain as well. That's really what we're all on some level, with some aspect of variation to the equation. That's what so many are dealing with. So just think about some of these things today, guys. Hopefully these can help you. You can, if you need help or if you need any guidance with any of this stuff directly one-on-one, click on the website, join in that free community, reach out directly, whatever it is. Follow us on other channels. We'll be starting to branch out and promote more as well. But take the action. That's what today's about. All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Hopefully you enjoyed 9 things that I would tell my 20-year-old self as I am today at 41. Guys, thanks for tuning in. One love. We'll see you guys next time.